Hello everyone, my name is Kiva and I teach people how to achieve the luxe look for less. In today's video, we're talking about interior design mistakes that I've made that are lazy, costly, and just plain ugly. And I'm doing this video so that you don't make these same mistakes. You're gonna walk away offended, but you're also gonna walk away with tons of good info. Before we get into today's video though, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and check me out on Instagram, but let's get into it. Before we jump on in, you guys see, I'm in streetwear, I'm not wearing my professional clothes. This is a safe place. This is a safe place today because we're talking about design mistakes that we all make. We make them because we're lazy, because we don't know any better, and that's okay. And I'm gonna tell you the mistakes I've made so that you don't make them, so that we can get your home looking amazing ASAP. So I've talked about this interior design mistake before, but it's one that I need to repeat and repeat and repeat because it is the worst one as far as I'm concerned. This design mistake is painting your walls the wrong sheen. You're like, Kiva, it's not that big of a deal. It is that big of a deal. It literally looks like I was moisturizing myself and I was like, oh, the wall looks a little bit dry too. Let me moisturize her as well. No, like that should not be the case. There shouldn't look like there's Vaseline on the wall. It is so ugly and unbecoming, and it's something you notice no matter what, especially when there are lights on or when the sun is out, because the sun is glistening down and you're like, oh, this is amazing, and then look at how horrible my house looks. When you use the wrong paint sheen, especially on top of painting that you've already done, it just looks horrible. It looks patchy. But this is a mistake that is so easy to make because when we paint our house, we're just kind of like, okay, what paint can I get the fastest? What paint do they have on the Home Depot or Lowe's shelf? I've been there. I agree with you. But it is so valuable to learn the different paint sheens and where you need to use them. So I'm getting my house repainted on Monday, and it has taken 2 years to find a painter that I was going to trust to do it. And the reason it happens is because we don't take into consideration that our painters and contractors and developers, they get their paint from the source. They go to Sherwin-Williams, they go to XYZ, and they get a big tub of mass-produced paint and they have their own sheen. There's a particular formula that you use, which is not the same formula that you, me, or Mary Sue can get from the store. So what you need to do to avoid this problem, if you're going into a new build and there's some chips on the wall, make sure there's some type of warranty. Make sure that developer is going to come back to your house and do those touch-ups if they're not going to give you the paint. Option 2, ask them for the paint. They already are upset with you anyway because you've asked them 50 million questions. Mind you, they were good questions because you just paid all that money for that house, but they're like, oh my God, why are you irritating me? Ask them for the paint. Ask them again. Ask them a third time. If you don't feel comfortable asking them, DM me, I'll call them, I'll pretend to be you, and I'll bug them until you get it. Option 3, it only applies if you are handy, you're a DIYer, or you're excited to live out on the edge. Repaint the house yourself or repaint the house using a painter and buy that paint yourself. Therefore, you know exactly what sheen you got, you know exactly where you got it from, you know there's nothing finicky going on, you know that you can buy the highest quality of paint possible. Now, this goes in with this one. This is not only about getting the right sheen of paint, it's also about buying high quality paint. So again, sometimes we just want to save money. Sometimes you're like, you know what? I would rather spend this money on the frame TV and not on some paint, right? You'll drop the $1,500 on the TV, but the paint, you're like, $35 or $45. I'm going to get the $35 one. Again, been there, done that. I'm with you, but it chips. So let's look at my house, for example. Now, I will say that we are hard on our walls because you guys know me. I wake up at 12 in the middle of the night and I'm like, I just gotta hang this painting. I just gotta do this DIY project. You know, I'm a little eccentric. But we are hard on our walls and you can see all of this chipping. And we bought middle tier paint. But if we just paid that extra $20, that extra $30, we might not see this chipping. You need to make sure that your paint is gonna hold up to your lifestyle. So over time, it's gonna be worth the upfront investment because otherwise you're just gonna be repainting and repainting and repainting. And again, we need to think long-term with money. Everyone needs to think long-term with money. $100 today might save you $200 in 2 years from now. And to me, that sounds fantastic. The next interior design mistake that I've made that really just irritates me to my core is getting scale wrong. And not just getting scale wrong, buying something and not thinking at all about scale. We all have those pieces of furniture and we're just like, I gotta have that. Some people are like, I gotta have the cloud sofa. Some people are like, I gotta have the primrose mirror from Anthropologie. I gotta have this, I gotta have that. This is the thing for me. We fall in love with these items and sometimes we forget to look at the size of those items. This matters about actually physically getting something into your house. It doesn't matter how it looks once it gets in here, but you need to think about whether things can actually fit in your front door. You have to think about whether or not those delivery people make enough money to carry an 1,000-pound sofa in here that ultimately they can't even get through your front door. Now, this is something super important because when you buy furniture, sure, you might be able to get it in, but you're not going to have those delivery people when you move. Maybe you need to be able to make sure that you can carry those sofas, that you can get them in and out of your house, that you can get them in and out without damaging any property. If you're selling a house, it's not going to be your property for long. If you live in a condo, you live in an apartment, you do not want to mess up the communal property. You're gonna get in trouble. So you need to know about scale. Now, that's just when it comes to moving things, but let's talk about scale inside a home. Scale is something that I got wrong for years. 4 years. So you guys know we have really, really tall ceilings here in our house. There are some places they're 15 feet, other places they're 16 feet. We just have really tall ceilings and they are incredible. But when we first moved in here, all of our furniture was very low to the ground. Our furniture is still low to the ground because we are into contemporary design. They have lots of low profile furniture. But we had to learn how to balance that because it used to look like we only had doll furniture in here and everyone was like, what's going on? I don't know who everyone is. Literally no one comes in our house. I don't know what I'm talking about. But in my head, I was like, what's going on in here? So you need to make sure that your furniture is scaled correctly, not only to like the width and length of your space, but also to the height of your space. So if you have lots of low profile furniture, that's what you like, add some art that goes up to the ceiling, add a big mirror, add a chandelier or something that draws the eye upward and just occupies the space up near the ceiling. We need something going on upwards, right? Our design just doesn't stop at eye level. It also continues going. If it stopped at eye level, I believe that interior design would be a lot more affordable, and that's great, but that's just not the reality of things. Now, again, people get scale wrong in terms of height, but another way people get scale wrong is in terms of depth. So let's use us for an example once again. So we wanted the cloud sofas dupes. We love them. They're comfortable. They work for our lifestyle right now, but they're leaving soon. They're leaving very soon. Sure, we're getting a sofa that looks identical, but it's just like less deep, but they're leaving soon. And what we got wrong is that they are so deep, especially with the cloud sofa. People want the cloud sofa. People want the modular sofas, but they're so deep and we don't think about it. These sofas are almost 4 feet deep. That's a lot of feet. And so 4 feet in a room that's only 10 feet wide, that's almost half the room just on the sofa. What about your ability to walk? What about any other furniture you could possibly want? Scale matters, and these are things we have to think about. And I know everyone likes to measure everything like this. You're like, okay, I'm gonna take this and then I'm gonna carry it over here and then I'm gonna carry it over here. First of all, that does not work. It doesn't work. Get a tape measure, get a buddy, get a yardstick, get something and measure correctly. And also, don't do the thing that we all do where we're like, oh, I want this so bad, I'm just going to ignore all the details, right? Haven't you been there? You're like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm gonna ignore it. If it's meant to be, it will fit. No, that's expensive. That's a waste of time. And your house just isn't gonna look as good as it could look. Sometimes we want things and they just can't happen, but that doesn't mean we can't establish the same look in, a more roundabout way. Now, this is something that I see people get wrong time and time and time again, and it's okay because I feel like we just don't talk about it enough. And that's what happened with so many interior design mistakes. I feel like all the time we're like, oh, I can't believe you got that wrong. Of course you got it wrong because no one spoke about it. And that's why I'm here, right? Safe place, let's get into it. Let's talk about lighting. So lighting is something that is so heavily neglected. People are like, I have an overhead light, like that's it, right? Like that's good. I agree. Overhead lights are great, but they can only do so much. Also, overhead lights work in conjunction with natural light. But if Mr. Sun is not your friend today, what are you going to do? You need to be able to see in your home. Lighting is not just about, oh, that light looks good. It's about actually being able to maneuver your space. And safety, when it comes to design, is the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. So many times people, they fall over their vases, they cut their leg on their tables, they hit their head on something. I don't want that to happen to you. I want you to have a pleasant experience in your home without any boo-boos. I don't want that for you. I know I said boo-boo, so it seems like I was being sarcastic, but I truly, truly mean it. And a way to avoid that is to add some additional lighting. So you can add so many different types of light. You can add table lamps. You can add lamps in the corner. You can add LED light strips to your furniture if you're into contemporary or Scandinavian design, or if you're a little bit younger and you're kind of just like into that style. Something else you can do is you can add task lamps. I love task lamps. You guys know it. I literally never stop talking about them because I think they are the best invention ever. Well, like second to like electricity generally. They just provide mood lighting and they provide task lighting. There, hence the name task light. You can do tasks with the light because sometimes you need a little bit extra light. Lighting is also super important because it adds a decor. We get sofas with like nice textures and patterns. We had throw pillows and throw blankets, but I don't know about you. I love throw pillows and throw blankets, but I can't have more than 2 on a sofa because I need to be able to sit down. Sometimes they're comfortable, but sometimes they're not, right? And they're just in the way. So to dress up my sofas, to dress up my area, I add lighting because they're a twofer. I get the light, plus they look good and they add a new texture and a new color and all those things we want to layer in our homes. Now this is probably like the most lazy design mistake from today's video, and this mistake is hanging your art incorrectly. And there's so many different ways you can incorrectly hang artwork. So the first way is not hanging the artwork by the hooks that it comes with. Now if you're buying really expensive frames, you can sometimes get away with this. But if you don't hang your artwork from the hooks, the frame will bow. And a bowing frame is not cute. There's not like a frame that looks like this. An arched frame is not a thing. An arched mirror frame, perhaps. An arched trellis, perhaps. An arched piece of art, I do not think so, unless you're, like in a church or something like that. We don't like bowed art. It does not look good. That is just the fact of the matter. And that happens a lot of times because people don't want to use the hooks, right? You don't want to use the hooks. You just want to kind of get the art up there because it took you so long to find the art, or you had to invest in the art, and you're like, I just want to get it up there, Kiva. I am so over this. I understand. But you have to hang the art correctly because you spent all this money, you spent all this time, and then it starts to bow. And that means your frame is going to break. Not only does it not look good, your frame's going to break. And that means you will have shards of wood, shards of glass on your floor, which again, can be unsafe. So just hang your art correctly. If you've been with me for a while, I talk about the toothpaste trick all of the time. To hang something using the toothpaste trick, you get some toothpaste, you put it on the hook, you push it into the wall, right? And then you put a level on top. You make sure the art is level, you push it in, and then the toothpaste is exactly where those hooks are. You put your 2 nails in the wall and you are good to go. There's so many other ways to do this. People use templates, people use tape. The toothpaste trick is what works best for us, and we absolutely love it. Now, another way people hang art incorrectly, and I said this in my first ever interior design mistakes video, is that they hang it too high or they hang it too low. The placement of your art can make all the difference, even if your artwork is scaled too small for your space, or even if it's too large. Sometimes that's a statement, right? I feel like that happens in interior design. You can do whatever you want, you just have to be confident about it. But something that people always get wrong is if your art is too high, you can't even see it, right? I know I just said I want you to scale things correctly to your home. Yeah, your art can be tall if it's big, but if your art is, 10 feet high and you're, 5'1", you cannot see the artwork unless you're like this. No one does that, right? So you want to be able to enjoy the art. Now, if the art is too low, then you have to look down and only the kids can see it. You want your art to be at eye level. It is as simple as that, standard eye level. Now, if you are 6'7", I'm not talking about you. I'm sorry. Do that for all of your art. Instead of trying to make sure the top of all of your painting frames are the exact same height, first of all, that doesn't always make sense because all of your art can be different sizes, so that might not be right. But just make sure that they're all at eye level. It makes it a lot easier to get things done. Now, the final interior design mistake that people make all of the time that I want you to think twice about is being inconsistent. Now, what a vague thing for me to say. Don't click away. That is vague, but I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. I want there to be consistency in terms of your design style, in terms of the finishes that you use, etc. So your house doesn't have to be, manicured. It doesn't have to be perfectly curated, right? It is a home. It is something that you build along the way. Unless you are hiring a designer, unless you want your home to look perfect on day one, these things take time, but there are a few things that you need to be consistent about. For example, a lot of homes, when you move into them, they have chrome or silver hardware. That's just what they have. They tend to be cheap, and that's what developers use, and that's totally fine. And something that we'll go and do is we'll go and change our hardware to black, right? So every other place in the house has chrome finishes, and then we just have this one place where there's black. And it might look good when you're just looking at that room, but as you travel through the different rooms, it's kind of confusing. If everything isn't different, right? If everything isn't different, it just kind of seems like this one place is very disjointed from the remainder of your home. Same thing goes with style. So in my home, for example, right? This is not the case anymore, but we renovated the kitchen first, right? We didn't renovate it. We changed the color of the cabinet and we really established brass, right? So we did a black and brass, and that was great, right? That's our design style. You guys know this. That's what we love, right? But we first started out here. But the guest room behind me for like 6 months, not even 6 months, a year or two after that, it still had very traditional brown furniture. It had the chrome finishes. It had a macrame on the wall. It was like 18 design styles in one, and it wasn't cohesive at all. So when I was out here, when we'd be entertaining or when someone would come stay, they'd be like, oh, wow, you guys are really into contemporary. What's going on in there? You know, it was just really disjointed. And this is not about what other people think. It doesn't matter. I care very passionately. I want to be able to walk through my home and maybe leave the doors open or something like, you know, to circulate the air or whatever it is, and the house look cohesive, make it look like it flows, right? So be consistent. If you're going to change one thing, you have to keep in mind you're probably going to have to change another thing, right? So you need to think about the cost, the time commitment, all of that before you change one tiny little thing, especially if you're changing things in spaces that a lot of people occupy. But it is really important that your home be consistent. Now, one of the exceptions to that I always feel is maybe like a powder room. A powder room is where you can really go bold and wild if you want to, and it doesn't have to really flow with the rest of the home. But honestly, I think it's best to have a style and kind of run with it. Even though celebrities where you're like every room is different, they are consistent in that every room is different. Establishing consistency is so important. So if you're going to have brass as your accent color, have brass chandeliers, have brass hardware. They can have different textures. They can be different lengths, different widths. There can be differences among the color category, but we stick with the same color. Again, this is repetition of texture. It's repetition in general. You want to repeat things throughout your home to make it feel cohesive. You just want your home to flow, right? It feels right to you. It doesn't feel disjointed, and that is exactly what we want. If you haven't seen my interior design video for lazy people, go check that one out because that is really relevant. But one of the tips I gave in that video was to actually buy all of your lighting from one place, buy all of your hardware from one place to make sure that the finishes are consistent, right? Because that company, they might have so many different styles of something, but all in the same color, all in the same finish. So you know that they all match, but you can have that dimension, you can have the different texture, you can have the differences while also having the sameness. It makes it super easy, and you don't have to be out searching. I know I'm that person who will like put a faucet in my purse, you know, and take it to the store to make sure it matches something. People look at me, you know, maybe you don't want to do that. That's okay. So just skip all the hassle, buy everything from one store, and it will give you the consistency that you need. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. Those were a few interior design mistakes that are costly, ugly, and lazy that I've made that I don't want you to make. Have you made any of these mistakes? How are you going to fix them? Let's chat about it down in the comments. I hope you walk away from this video not just knowing the mistakes that you've made, but also knowing that it's okay to make mistakes. We all make them, even the professionals, and I know you're gonna get your house looking fantastic soon. If you liked today's video, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and check me out on Instagram. And until next time, have a beautiful day.